All right, man. We are live. Grant House, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Brett. Thanks for having me on today. Excited to chat.
Brand spanking new Pac-12 champion, man. Team champion as well. Look at this.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, more excited about the second one, especially. So that's been a long, long time coming, well, for
It's
sure.
the first time in program's history, hey?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I got like kind of the stats. I guess I'll start with that. Is I knew it was the first swimming in program history. You know, that was like my immediate goal.
Mm.
And then we had one of our head of compliance, JD Loudinger there, and he told us all like this is the first in swimming history. This is the first in Arizona history. So no Arizona
Wow.
school has ever won a Pac-12 title.
Swimming, wow.
And then this is only the seventh Pac-12 title ever at ASU, too.
Dang. Wow.
So super powerful, super cool to hear that, and just to know that I was one of the guys, and our collective group was responsible for bringing that to ASU.
Well, not only are you one of the guys, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit of personal inside info here, man. I got a text from Keenan, and he knew that you were coming on the program. And he gave you a lot of props and we're talking about Keenan Robinson here, the strength coach. He gave you a lot of props as the first guy to commit to Bob, many years ago, like the first guy with true Olympic potential talent, right? Like one of the top guys in the country. You committed to Bob, and then you are now the heart and soul of this program, man. You're the leader. You're the people that the guys look to. You're the one that does all the recruiting, from what I hear. Like you're the guy that's building this program from the inside with the coaching stuff, obviously, but they need a leader in the middle, and you're the guy in the middle, man.
I appreciate the high praise. Yeah, I mean, it was always my goal coming in here. I vividly remember the first chat with Coach Bowman and Bob in his office, and just this vision that we both had of what I felt like was possible here that just people were ignorant about in Tempe, and that I wanted to make a national championship team and a Pac-12 conference championship team and become an Olympic gold medalist. And I was like, those are my three stipulations. If we can combine forces on that, then I'm all in. I'm all in. I'll give you everything. I love the recruiting. I think I'm pretty good at it,
Mm.
and I just love connecting and getting people involved and raising that sense of belonging and that belief in this program. Because I mean, Bob said it after Saturday night. Like when I came along, there was pretty much no one had any business to have any belief in what they could
No,
accomplish,
no.
but I was crazy enough to believe it, I guess, and also see it. So.
That's awesome, man. I love that. A couple of shout outs here. Some boys coming in to say hi. Success for Smitty. Let's have a look at this. Peter's like, what's up? And we've got Mason here.
Oh, what up,
Mason's
Mace?
Mason's in there. So yeah, a lot of love out there for you, man. Where people are listening. Well, listen. What was it then? What was you had the chance to go anywhere you probably wanted to go? So why did you decide to commit to Bob at that point in time?
Yeah, I get that a lot, over my years, and I believe it was just this commitment and this understanding that I felt with Bob, with the program, the things that were set up in place at Tempe, at Arizona State, and it was just everything was there for success. Just no one was tapping into it. There
Mm-hmm.
was so much availability. No program was really like excelling that far, and to be someone that can come in and make immediate impact was pretty cool to me. I felt like a strong sense of belonging and influence in that, and just this challenge to go up against these perennial powerhouses of Cal and Texas and Florida. And I mean, it's frustrating. It's been frustrating over the last 5 years at points for sure. But just to have that opportunity to go up and not just be a cog in the wheel, and not to belittle like the historic history that all those programs have, like all the respect and earned respect given to those programs as well. But when I was looking at where I wanted to go at college, I just kind of kept feeling the same sense of like, okay, I can just kind of continue this tradition, continue this, like keep feeding into this, or I can kind of take a step aside, take a different route, a different path. And I feel like what most people do are expected to, and build something to beat these powerhouses, to create a perennial powerhouse of ourselves in Tempe. And when I got on campus, I loved it. It was way different than I expected. I thought it was just going to be desert and dry rocks out here, and it's beautiful. I mean, we literally have a spot on campus called Palm Walk with just palm trees for like a mile. So I call it Paradise 365 out here, and it's just beautiful. Like even one of our freshmen today, he's like, he just stopped while we were swimming, and he's like, dude, it's such a beautiful day. I'm so glad to be swimming out here. And he's like, last week I had seasonal depressive disorder or whatever from like the Federal Way sky. And I just thought that's hilarious. It was so simple, but I was like, yeah, like even on the worst days, swimming outside in 60 plus degrees, 70 plus, not a cloud in sight, makes your life, your day to day, a lot better. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, there's so much to talk about. I'm glad you've dedicated some time here because we're going to be here for a while. So if you guys have got questions in the chat too, feel free to jump in. We want to kind of bring the audience into this. That's why it's live. But I'll say this. It's always interesting what programs do kind of the day after. Like a Monday, you're back from a big championship meet. You got to prepare for NCAAs. What was today like? What did you do?
Yeah, so today, yesterday we traveled, kind of got ourselves situated here, and at this point in the season, like we're not going to be cranking too much differential and like training and intensity and volume. It's just kind of tightening the screws, fine tuning, sharpening the blades, and so what we've always understood is the best thing we can do is rest the body and make ourselves as healthy as possible. So. Herbie and Bob gave us the morning off to sleep in. I think Herbie asked all of us, the first thing he asked was how much sleep we got the night before. And that was like really our first like practice session. And I don't think I heard a single guy in sprint group say they got less than 10 and a half hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, capitalizing on that is something that I just had to laugh that like on the ASU, people weren't doing before. Like just those small things like that. And coming back into practice today, Herbie didn't have a single interval in our practice. I don't know what Bob's group did exactly, but it wasn't too high intensity. We both finished exactly at an hour. It was kind of like scary how close we all finished at the exact same time. But yeah, there wasn't a single interval in my practice, just kind of flowing through it, some IM transition, some longer pulling sets, and all the rest we had. Herbie just wrote, make it 8 to 10 deep breaths in between each rep and relax your body as much as possible. So just very, very minimal stress today, just kind of flushing out the travel and the high stimulus of racing last week. So I always enjoy the day after we come back from big travel meets, just because it gives you time to breathe a little bit and refresh your body for what's to come.
Yeah, cool. A couple of questions coming in, which is good. I'll get to them in a second, but I just want to ask you this. Was the end goal at the start of the year to hoist the Pac-12 trophy? Was that the end goal?
No, not at all. It's interesting. That's one of the first questions, because I was just talking to we had a men's team meeting today, right after we swam, and I've been laughing about this actually, because I don't think anyone, I never heard it, but I never uttered it once the entire year. We've just been to our process and the final meet of the year. Once we finished last year 6th in the nation, we kind of understood what we're capable of. And I think seeing Pac-12's last year's wall showed us like a pretty big sign. And I think the first time I heard anyone mention a Pac-12 championship was on the flight to Federal Way. And I just kind of was like, oh, well, yeah, if we're targeting the national championship, like, yeah, we can definitely do this too. And it was just another step in our process. It was just another preparatory stage, the last preparatory stage to getting into NCAAs. And even there was one night where Herbie and I and Reese Whitley were talking together, and Herbie was just saying, like, what better way to prepare for swimming at the highest level than with some of the best competition between Cal and I. And Stanford and ASU, like one of the 3 of the best teams. Last year, Cal won, we got 6th, and Stanford got 7th. So 3 teams in the Pac-12 out of 6, the Pac half, got filled up 3 spots in the top 7 in the country. So
Mm.
it's a small but mighty conference, and
Mm.
there's no better way to go about doing that.
Yeah, that's good. Really interesting. I think there's a lot there for people that are trying to study how to win a championship. I've heard that so many times. I've been part of championship teams myself where it wasn't the goal to win the conference title. It was kind of almost like the given in a way of like, look, we're either going to go out there and compete for it or we're going to win it. You know, it was that's just, but it wasn't like that's the be all and end all of our season. The season is the end, right? The end result is the NCAA championships. That's where you want to be at your best.
Yeah.
It's almost like we'll go to the conference and do what we have to do to get to that. So it's nice that that's kind of in flow with everything that I've understood about winning championships in the past, which is dangerous because it means ASU is really focused on the end of the season. And wow, that is scary. Let's go to a couple of questions here. So Peter says, how long do you plan on staying at ASU?
Yeah, I mean, I mean that's well, in college, I think I've maximized my time. I think I've stretched
No more years.
Yeah, stretch the cord as much as I can. So if the NCAA wants to give me more years, I'll gladly take it at this point. But yeah, I mean, I definitely found my home here. I enjoy it. I think by the just influx and migration of America's best swimmers. I mean, we've kind of got like the medal factory down here with Chase, Kalish, Jay Litherland, Reagan Smith, Haley Flickinger, Ryan Held, Olivia Smoliga, Leon, Hubie Koss, like, the list goes on and on. So, I mean, the best in the world are seeing it out here, and so I don't see why I would be ignorant enough to leave, and I don't have any intentions of leaving ASU, and definitely continuing on as long as I'm seeing improvement in the sport of swimming.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Paris coming up next year, there's no chance you're leaving anytime soon. This is an interesting one because you had a lot of success again in the 200 free. Congratulations on that. So. People want to know your strategy, man. They want to get in your head a little bit here. How do you swim so fast, and then how do you get under this elusive 130?
Yeah, you know, I think it's well, I haven't figured out that one quite yet. I guess so. I don't have the secret sauce to that one, I guess. But you know, the process that I followed and that I believe in. You know, whenever I've had my best swims in the 200, it's just been thinking less about the outcome, that final time, and just focusing on the steps that get there each time. Like we talked about with even the Pac-12 conference title, you know, we didn't talk about that. We talked about the days leading up into it, the preparation, and the overall goal of, you know, putting this whole body of work in to prepare ourselves at the last opportunity. And every time I have my best swim, whether it's the 130s from last year, NCAAs, at night at Pac-12s this year, all I can remember is focusing on my breathing and each stroke, just feeling the water, catching the water, and just trying to accelerate into each wall for me. And so I've spent a lot of time with Bob, 3 years training with him. So I know I have the capacity and the work foundation even before that, by all means. And then transitioning into pretty much a newer realm for me, the sprint world of things with Herbie, learning that I have the capacity to take it out. So I kind of get like a fun little blend of it for me that I know I'm not going to die in my 200. So I can just kind of allow my body to try to push as hard as I can. And then whatever's there at the end, I know it's going to be good. I know I'm not going to fade too hard. And so
the strategy itself is don't create the strategy on race day. The strategy is already created in practice where you've gone through the feeling of how you want that to feel, like the flow of it, the speed of it, the control of it. Like you've hit paces over and over again in practice. So for you, it's not like, oh, I've got to be 24 flat here or whatever it is. You know, it's like it's just you being on a pace that you're comfortable with that you've hit over and over again.
Yeah, just getting out of my mind and into my body, just letting things, the moment take over, honestly. And I know I'm a leg dominant swimmer, and just knowing that my legs are going to be there, the predominant engine on the second half of the race, and kind of just letting flow and the front end speed take care of itself with the upper body on the front. The first 100 is the only aspect that I really think about.
Yeah. you're putting yourself into some pretty serious situations. You look across the pool, and there's good swimmers either side of you, and there's a lot on the line. I mean, you're going for back-to-back championships in that event. You're obviously trying to get your hand on the wall first. So there's other factors that are happening at the same time, that are in play, right? So as a competitor, as someone that's having success at that level, talk to the people that are trying to understand this. How do you deal with all those different factors?
Yeah, it's definitely something I think Herbie's helped me begin the process of mastery over. I don't think I am a full master of it yet, but it really ultimately, like, no matter what it is, it's just noise. Like, it's just outside noise and like external distractions. And something that like Herbie told me once that really resonated with me was you need to make sound amongst all the noise. And each individual person can make their own music and their own sound, but all the noise kind of disrupts it sometimes. And so, last year was my first year where I really like tapped into that. And I looked at the video and I didn't even recognize this. But like I raced Trenton Julian, and I guess like he came to tap me up on the shoulder to like say good luck or whatever his intention was at that point. And I had no recollection of him touching my body, him on my shoulder, saying anything. And I was just completely absorbed in the moment of myself. And then the same thing again with the 100 freestyle at Pac-12s and the 200 as well. All I thought about was just controlling what I can do each lap, focusing on my breath and just each piece of the puzzle rather than everything at once. I just kind of step up, breathe, look at my team, feel the energy from that. And fortunately for that heat, I had half the heat was my practice group anyways. So I was most concerned about my teammates in that. And so that was kind of relieving in that sense. I was like, well, the biggest competitors I'm going to race against are my teammates. I've done this every day of the year, so I'm ready for that one. Good.
You're in the right space, man. You're in the place that you need to continually go back to. So you've found it. Now I'd highly recommend you continue to go back there because that's the right space.
Thank you.
Let's have a look at this one. If ASU wants to win the national championship, do you think you'll have to run through Cal or Texas? I mean, you got to run through both of them. What are you talking about? Timmy, what kind of question is this?
Come on now.
Come on now.
I mean, it's obvious. Like they're both gonna be at the meet. We'll see them again.
They're both gone 1-2 for the past 12 years or something.
Yeah. So I mean, they'll both be there. It's I mean, even swimmers that'll be at NCAA ask me like, what's the strategy for it? Like, how do you think it'll change anything? I was like, that it doesn't change anything. Like, you've been at the meet too. Like, I've swam in it as well. There's just gonna be more teams and more people going for each spot. So that's the only thing that changes.
How many of you guys have qualified right now?
We'll officially know tomorrow, I believe, for real. But I think as of right now, it's projected to be 14, which is the biggest team I've ever been a part of. I think last year was 11 or 12. So, and our divers are at zones right now, which they're also at Federal Way. So that was pretty cool to see them there on the last night as well to celebrate with them. So hopefully we'll have even more. But 14 swimmers as of right now, I believe, is projected.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good. And we talked about this earlier. I'm going to get into some more questions, but we talked about this earlier. It's nice. It's a nice feeling to have the best swimmer in the world on your team. It's a good feeling, man. It gives everybody confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just sit around, Leon, and like, I mean, I even journaled about it earlier in the week at conference championships, and I mean, you just feel his aura, his energy, just sitting around him. And he's not a guy for many words, but you just know, you feel more competent, more confidence around him going into all your races. And I think that just uplifts everyone on the team around him, especially the guys that get to train with him every day. I unfortunately only get to race with him occasionally. But I think they have to separate us occasionally, pretty often for fair reasons. But it's he's just an insane animal, just a different beast.
Does he swim the same lineup at NCAAs that he swam at Pac-12s?
I don't know. I didn't know what his lineup would be. I think he was entered in 2 other events as well in Pac-12s. I think he was entered in the 500 as well, and I think the 200 fly. But it's just kind of to an elevated position of where I was at when I started at ASU. It's wherever wherever we really need him to score the most points and wherever we need him to help the team out the most. And luckily we've got great guys in the 2 fly now. Alex Colson and Andrew Gray had phenomenal performances at Pac-12s and throughout their career. Alex A-final last year. And, so we've got David Schlicht in the 200 breaststroke as well. So it's exciting. We're finally getting some people that can take responsibility for those events, that depth in the team. And it doesn't have to just fall on 1 or 2 people, but it's, I don't know what Leroy's lineup's going to be, but I mean, he's put times down and dang near every event in the NCAA at this point. So I got him back in the 200 freestyle. So I was glad about that one after that nice leadoff he had, but maybe he'll swim the 200 freestyle too. Who knows?
Yeah. Now, what about you? Are you going to swim the same lineup? Do you do the IM at the event, or do you swim 5 relays?
Yeah, I've talked to Herbie and Bob about it a couple times. I mean, it's been up in the discussion of just seeing how things shake out. I really think Wednesday or Tuesday, it could be another discussion, but I think for all intents and purposes, it was 3 events and 4 relays. I'm a pretty big advocate of the 5 relays. For myself, I like that a lot, and just sticking to 2 events.
Right.
But I think our team's accelerated to a level now where, even more than I thought. So after midseason, because I remember talking to Herbie about it, where, we don't, Leon and I don't absolutely have to be on every relay for them to succeed at their highest level. And, we had a freshman anchor our medley relay night 1. And so I got to just focus on the 4x200 relay. And so that was a nice aspect too, to have that. So going forward with that, we'll just kind of have to identify and see how things shake out. But Leon wasn't on the 4x50. Our freshman Johnny Kulo was also on that one too. So he lightened the load for Leon on that relay, lightened the load for me on the 4 medley, and he performed better than me on both of them. So, it worked out there.
Yeah. The 100 free is a stacked event at NCAAs. We were talking about this morning on our live show, and we kind of threw out some names. You got your top 4 players. So you got Leando, you got Brooks Curry, you got Bjorn Siliga, and then you've got Jordan Crooks. They were the 4 that we talked about, but we didn't even throw your name in the hat. How does that make you feel that you weren't even thrown into the hat there?
Everyone can keep sleeping a little bit. People are got to wake up eventually, and it's only a matter of time. So it's okay. We've got a lot of people to fill out that top 8 for sure. And we'll check the receipts at the end of NCAAs. That's there's no line about the scoreboard, and we'll see. So it's been a work in progress, and Sir Herb I trust, and we'll see how it keeps evolving. I've had
What's
my
your best time in that one.
41.3, which was at NCAA. So 2 of my 3 best times have come from at NCAA. So I've been able to perform at that race at the meet that matters most, and had a nice little 41.6 flat start at finals on the 100 free on Saturday. So that was good to get back down there and start to see some speed, and to know there's a lot more rest for me to get. So
seems like the guys in that event of late seem to be really attacking the underwaters on all turns. So where do you lie in that, in the 100 free, in terms of your strategy in and out of the walls? How many kicks are you trying to get off each wall?
Yeah, for me, it's about 6 to 7 as of right now. That's about as in the last, I think a year ago, it was raising it from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And then this year it's been to 6 and 7. And that's kind of been out of necessity of what you just said, studying Crooks, watching Leon every day, racing Leon, and just having a front row ticket to Underwater World every time we race. That's as much as I feel competent that I've improved in thus far. But really for me, if I'm swimming the 100, I've got to be the best back end swimmer in that race. And so for me, it's about sticking to my underwater parts, like we just talked about, but going off and just trying to get out as fast as I can. Bjorn's flipping 18.8s in his 100, and I think my fastest ever is like an 19.9. So it's just getting out fast enough, because I know I'm going to bring it back. I mean, I do the 200 and I came in doing the 500 in Bob's training. So I know I can bring it back in the second 50, but it's just making sure I'm out fast enough so I'm in a good position to capitalize on my biggest strength.
Right. This is an interesting question because I think I might have part of your answer here, and tell me if I'm wrong. But I would imagine a lot of your goals for NCAAs revolve around two things: revolve around relays and the team itself. They probably don't. Yeah, it's probably not much about you personally, even though you want to be the best you can. It's not like you don't have a personal focus, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I unfortunately can't, like, don't really have an answer to that one, but like you're right on the mark there. It's just capitalizing on whatever the team needs me to do, and focusing on my strengths, being on every relay or any relay. Or, I mean, I've always said the day that I'm the worst 200 freestyle on the team will be a great day. I'm not going to let that happen, but hopefully that happens, like at some point of, there's 5 guys ahead of me going 128 or 129 from ASU. But yeah, whatever the team requires me, I just want to put myself in the best possible position to score as many points and to elevate our relays higher than they were last year. And that's really my only 2 goals that it's always been, but especially the last 2 years.
Yeah. What's this one here? Drills for starts, particularly how to use the arms. How's your start? Is it pretty solid?
I personally think it's one of the best in the nation.
Boom, there we go. Okay, all right. Talk us through it. What's happening here? What's going on with your start? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I work a lot on like the tensioning in your feet, the front and the back of the wedge. If you notice, like a lot of people's ankles will drift and lose tension on it, but maintaining stiffness on the ball of your foot on the back of the wedge, I feel like is one of the most important things. And then from there, working a lot with Brad Tandy and Ryan Held, they've really helped me, taught me not to just jump out horizontally, but out and a little bit up, as if you're going into a hula hoop. And I think a lot of people get too caught up in the reaction of the start and how quick you get off, like 0.4, whatever it is. But I've always been a believer in it's how you enter into the water and how you create that hole, that vortex of speed going in. And so making sure you're getting off at the best angle with your hips and alignment and getting parallel to the bottom of the pool is, I think what the most important aspect is.
I agree.
And from what you said with underwaters, again, like, I mean, that's just revolutionizing everything. Like we almost need to add another underwater event in the NCAA lineup. I feel like,
for sure.
Because from that, it's just being a little bit patient once you get parallel, and then just starting to hit on your underwaters from there to 15.
How many times a week are you getting off the blocks? I'd imagine as the season progresses, probably more and more each week.
Yeah, Sir Herb, he definitely likes to make sure we're going fast pretty much every single day as much as possible.
And going fast means getting up and going off the blocks?
Yeah. I mean, we're suiting up. I mean, the last 3 months, we've suited up 3 to 4 times every week.
Oh, wow.
And we're going off the blocks Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, Wednesday afternoon, very intensely, Friday afternoon, very intensely. And then Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Well, Monday and Tuesday, we're typically just doing drills and training and threshold stuff. And then Thursday will actually be like recovery and technique. But the technique typically always starts with about 6 to 8 dives of different stances, different positions with the wedge, without the wedge, backstroke starts. So just
do you guys video it and analyze the video?
Yep. I've actually been kind of in this conflict spot where my phone's too filled with data or too filled with storage, and I had to go back and delete film from when I first started working with Herbie, because after that it was just minutes and seconds adding up so much of how much.
They got this thing called the cloud now. Put it up there, man. Stick it up there.
I'm not hip with the kids. Right? I gotta get on that. I got the external hard drive somewhere.
Don't be deleting that old stuff, man. That's gold. You'll look back 10 years from now and be like, damn, look at this old stuff on here. That's awesome.
Yeah, a couple of the videos were just a bad swim, so I just didn't want to keep those anymore. I was like, so it's okay if no one ever sees this one again. But yeah it's definitely a huge aspect that we have. I mean, Herbie, actually, I had to laugh. Herbie's birthday came up and I got him 2 gifts or something. And he's always whenever I see him taking video, he always has to either take off his sweatshirt and like just have his shirt on and like, or roll up his sleeve like super high, and then put his like hand in, kind of like not pay attention as much, and just like focus on that moment for us. So I got him like a camera stick so he can just like dunk it, like keep watching us and walk with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been using that like a ton. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just anything like even that like small little aspect. I was like, oh, like I think he would benefit from this.
Yeah.
Just anything to help us too.
Yeah. A lot of people are interested in the inner workings of ASU right now. Obviously, things are clicking for you. So if you can just give us a kind of a snapshot into what's going on. You did tell me earlier the men primarily are swimming on their own these days. So the men have kind of split off a little bit, or the women, either way. But the men are kind of doing their own thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Our men's program, we have some overlap with times in the morning sessions every morning. But yeah, the men train. Bob has his own group of like the IMers. Herbie has his own group with the sprinters. Logan Herka with distance, and then Rachel Stratton-Mills and Derek Schmidt are solely responsible for pretty much the entire women's team, except for Lindsay Looney spends a lot of time with, and Charlie Brown spends a lot of time with Bob in their group because of the butterfly prowess that Lindsay has, and Charlie just being an absolute monster with IM.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And then you were telling me about the distance coach that I didn't know much about, but I saw the success that they had this weekend. I was like, wow, the distance program's really come on.
Yeah. Logan Herka. So he's kind of like our undercover 100 mad scientist of sorts. He's been at ASU. We've almost been in tangent of like how long we've both been out here. He was out here, I think 2 or 3 years before I was. He's been out here about 8 years now. And, he came on a recruiting trip here to be a swimmer. And then kind of life took him in a different path, and he still wanted to be out here and be a part of the swimming program. He saw like the vision with Coach Bowman being a part of the program, and really wanted to just kind of see what would happen. And so he came on as a volunteer assistant, and then kind of pseudo team manager, then flipped into more of a formal team manager role. And then finally got his opportunity after staying here for so long and kind of proving his value, his worth, putting in his time. And 2 years ago became, I think this is his third year as being a full-time assistant coach. And he's taken the reins on the distance program. And the dude is just a student of the sport. Like Herbie and him have like shifted my paradigm of what I thought, like, cause I thought I studied a lot of swimming and like knew a lot about, human physiology, just even outside of swimming. And they just like take it to another level. I mean, Logan's whole desk is covered with books, papers, workouts, just different ideas. And he's constantly like, the books are always open on his desk. Like he's constantly learning and taking it in. So, I mean, even on a trip to finals one night, I think he was talking about Charles Poliquin, which is like one of the best exercise physiologists in history. And said he like spent like a whole summer just dedicated to like understanding his methodology and his periodization. And I was just like, this guy, wow. Logan's the man. Logan's the man.
Yeah. And it's really cool. Look, I've said this a couple of times publicly. It's cool that Bob has really allowed them to be who they are and grow and into the positions that they're in, especially what he's doing with Herbie, with the sprint side. Bob's really found a place where he's like, okay, I can really hone in on this, and you're going to go over there and do your thing. And there's a lot of trust, it seems, in the program now.
Yeah, big trust from the Bowmaster. It's pretty unique to see because, like you can definitely see the guidance that Logan got, especially spending more time with Bob than Herbie has total at this point. And just to see also the dynamic of what Herbie's taught Bob as well. I mean, I remember very distinctly like where we are on the pool deck when Bob was like, yeah, Herbie's the technique guy and technical guy of breaking things down better than I even can. Like he just takes it to like the nth degree. But for Bob to say that, I was like, wow, like Herbie must like have a really high sense of mastery. And this was like 3 or 3.5 years ago, like pretty early on when he started. So like Bob must have already like sniffed that out pretty immediately. And it's very accurate. Like they're both have their strengths, and Logan as well too. And it's just that I think they have to operate well. I think that's how all great leaders, like Bob does a great job of delegating and letting them take mastery. Because if he's trying to micromanage everything, it's going to interfere with stuff. And, aligning with each other and making sure that they're complementing one another, not overtaking, is very important. Like today, even Bob called me in for a meeting with Herbie, and it was a collective meeting, not just like with Bob and I. And so then I had to go fill in Herbie. It was like Herbie, Bob, and I all in a discussion on equal terms.
That's awesome. I love it. Cabes, what up? What's going on? Good to see you out there. What's this one? Kieran's out. Kibler's out. Sates is gone. Slam dunk. I don't know if there's any slam dunks, but you've got a good shot. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely got a good shot. I don't think any event in the NCAA at this point is a slam dunk. So I don't think that exists in swimming, NCAA swimming right now.
No, it's too competitive. There's no slam dunks. Not even. Look, as good as Leon is, there's not a slam dunk for him either.
No, I mean, he got beat last year in the 4IM. I mean, I was in the heat of the 2IM this year, and I was blown away at how much Hugo had improved since last year in that event. Like, I didn't know until later because I was busy watching their feet during the heat of them going a 137 and 138 at Pac-12s at least. And Hugo went a 138. Like, that was a dang good race for him. And I mean, Leon matched his time from NCAAs already. That's gonna be something to watch for sure.
Yeah. And then if anybody thinks those Texas boys are just going to roll over, that they got another thing coming too. There's definitely competition out there. So, what does this say? I didn't read this, so let's pull it up. How many yards you guys sprint mid distance do in a day, or pre-taper? So, like in the heavy season, what kind of yards are you doing per workout, you think?
Yeah, I know. So mine is pretty different. There's only like one or two guys, Johnny Kulo and Patrick Salmon, that are doing pretty much my full plan because of my background and my work capacity. I think I've talked to Herbie about it a couple of times. It's like can be 4 to 5, 5K at its peak.
Right.
But ever since I started working with Herbie, I don't really count the yards. It's kind of cliche, just like don't count the yards, make the yards count. But he has all these like floats and body line drills and like 35-yard dive efforts. And so like, I mean, I was like 2 weeks in and I was like, I'm just getting aggravated trying to add all this up. So I'm just going to stop and just focus on being present. So I unfortunately don't have as much of an idea on that. I just know we drop volume as we go along. We work up to a certain intensity. And then at the midpoint of our season, we just worry about maintaining that and getting faster each time, raising the level that we're at. Right. And then we just start peeling back everything as we come down in January, February, race more, elevate the level that we're racing at even more. That's why we finished with Stanford and Cal. And I mean, U of A was, our intra squad meet again, but just elevating ourselves even more, even if we didn't have like a strong of a competitor as Cal and Stanford.
Yeah, even with that, there's some criticism out there of the way that you guys approach the season in terms of putting suits on more regularly than people would have done in the past, because there's this old school mentality of like, oh, you only put suits on at the end of the year, and you guys have kind of flipped that on its head, and now you're seeing dual meets that are being performed in season with these suits on. So how do you feel about it?
I mean, I love it. I mean, one, it helps the psyche of the athlete. It shows you where your training's actually at. And to me, until we get everyone like suiting up for every dual meet, there's not gonna sign any worth to the dual meets. Like the dual meets aren't going to be worth anything. And so for us in our process, every dual meet is like a checkpoint and an analysis point of our what we're doing. Is it working? What do we need to adjust? What do we need to change? And then so when we come out of those dual meets, we're like, okay, this is working. These drills are working. This preparation. Oh, your breaststroke was off on the IM. We need to dial this up. Your back end was off. We need to fix that. Whereas if you're just going into every meet, just completely run down and like, it's just another meet, whatever. It's like, well, was it the rest? Are you doing the right training? Are you eating right? Did you sleep right? Like all those other things. And Bob and Herbie and Logan have really do a great job of like, this meet matters. the next meet matters. Like everything is a checkpoint for us to tell where we are in our process. And it's just elevating you to another level, because the more you can prepare at what you're going to be at the highest level is going to elevate your ultimate form even more. So, and if you're just waiting for that last moment to shave, rest, add a suit, it's so many variables that you don't know that too much about. Whereas if you're suiting up, you're like, okay, I know I'm going to suit up at a championship. I know I'm going to shave. And then the last piece is just taper after I've done the work. So if you have the answer of, I know what it's like to suit up and race in that, I know what it's like to shave, then all you have to do is taper and let the coaches worry about that. So it just simplifies the process to me. It makes swimming way more enjoyable, way more fun. I mean,
for sure.
Everyone likes, if you don't like going fast in swimming, then you're definitely in the wrong sport. And going fast involves putting a suit on.
I definitely feel like the mentality is shifting. Look, I was critical of you guys earlier in the season when you raced Cal, I think. And look, I do a lot of talking these days. I don't do much coaching, so like I got to kind of fill in the time with my mouth, you know. So like some of that is just hot air. But I was critical in the sense that I didn't think it was fair. In fair is a very kind of, you know, operative word. You can take it however you want, but like fairness. In terms of the fact that if you put a suit on and the entire team puts a suit on, this other team decides not to, it's almost a given that team is going to dominate the other team. And so my only criticism was that to have a dual meet where you're up against one other team and you're racing and one other team has such an advantage over the other that there's no chance that the other team can win. That was the criticism that I had, in terms of like, it was just two different playing fields. You know what I mean? So it was almost like, well, they're just going to roll over them and destroy this team because they really have no chance. You know what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear the sentiment. I also think the sentiment is, you know, Stanford, Cal, Arizona, they all knew that we were suiting up. And so at that point, it's the exercise of, are we going to lower our standard of excellence to what they want to maintain? Or are we going to help them raise their excellence, their standard of excellence to meet us? And if they do, cool. Stanford did. U of A did. Cal didn't. We saw the results of Pac-12s, and that took care of itself. Like, I was pretty disappointed that Cal didn't suit up. I thought it would have been more interesting. You know, at Pac-12s, I have Jack, Alexi, and Bjorn coming up to me like after the 100 freestyle and being like, hey, like, let's have some fun on this 4x1. I'm like, yeah, like, let's go for it. Like, let's have the intensity. Let's post the number 1 and number 2 times in the country. Like, I don't know why we couldn't have done that in January too. Like, yeah, it's not, the championships aren't done in January, but I mean, they had suits that they had brought with them at our dual meet. They just chose not to put them on, and that's their process. Our process is different. And
so the idea at that point is we don't want to embarrass Cal and destroy Cal. We just want to swim as fast as we possibly can. So the focus is not even on Cal. It's just on your team and saying, we're going to suit up and we're going to rip one here. And Cal's just going to be kind of the byproduct of us destroying this whole swim meet kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that, you know, what you said about how you focus on such an intense heat. It's just our process is what matters to us. Our process is what's going to make us win. And that's, if you try to strategize in swimming, it's kind of useless. It's not like you're intercepting passes or switching man-to-man defense or zone defense like other sports. It's just doing what we do best.
Yeah, a couple of questions here I want to throw in. Drew's actually on Any Question. He's in our app and he's answering questions on what his expertise is, and that is the marijuana industry, which is super cool. So go in there and ask Drew questions. But also he's a coach and he's fantastic at what he does. So, Drew, go back into Any Questions, start answering some questions for me, by the way, because I put this up for you. But let's go in here and say, what kind of stuff are you guys doing for dryland weight room training in the off-season and then the preseason? So, I don't know. We don't really have an off-season anymore because off-season would be considered summertime maybe, I guess, if you're looking at it from the NCAA point of view. So, in terms of, like, coming off the summer and then getting ready for the NCAA season, early season stuff, what are you doing then?
Yeah, it's just a general accumulation phase. So we're just gradually improving general strength principles, increasing volume in a very like general sense. Most of the teams doing the same thing within their group, accumulating volume just from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, just following a normal like strength periodization process of accumulation, hypertrophy, strength, power endurance, power, as we approach like the peak. And so it just kind of replays itself, recycles itself. And ideally, after the whole process is done, each time you're able to start at a higher level each time, and just accumulating that stress, that demand on the body each season. It's ultimately why everyone gets sore after taper typically, with starting into the next season. But yeah, I do 3 full body strength sessions a week. I used to do like another metabolic conditioning session for a 4th strength session in the week, but we don't do any dry lands other than in the weight room 3 times a week. And if anyone does more, it's on a need-to-need basis at ASU at least.
Yeah. This one here, in terms of just where you were last year and where you are this year, it's fairly comparable in terms of time, but do you feel like you're ahead of where you were last year at this point?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely ahead of where I was. The times might not indicate that like objectively, but just like my training and the objective nature of how I've been training in practices has exponentially improved. And just the training environment too. It's night and day. I thought it was intense last year, but it's just night and day compared to what it was last year. Every day, if you're not paying attention, you're going to get and you're going to get tagged at our practices. And it's from freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and then grandpas, super seniors like myself. Like every day, every rep, you got to be on or you're done for. And everyone makes sure of that. And everyone loves to be that guy to ruin your day. So it's an intense aspect, and it's kind of comical for me because I've never really had that every single day and every single session before. And now that I do, it just makes me more excited for every practice and to go and race and compete, and to see like these freshmen and sophomores just raising my bar and level and knowing where they're starting at. Like, it's going to be dangerous to see where Patrick Salmon and Johnny Kulo end up their senior years. Like 129s, that'll be like old news. Those will be dual meet times by the time they're seniors.
Yeah. Glenn Mills in the comments section. Glenn, what's up, my bud? We love you, man. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We feel special now.
The best of the best. Yeah, there.
I got one for you here. So down here underneath your name, it says Beine Wellness Building. They're a great supporter of our podcast. Erica is the leader of that organization. I know that you're associated with it. So like, I talk about getting on there and doing this, wellness program and the DNA testing and things like that, but you've actually gone in and done it, and it's had an effect on you and your performance. So in terms of what they're doing for you and how it's affected you, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I started the relationship with Erica, and I've started working with her too. And she's such a bright light in my life and huge positive influence as well. And just when I started working with her, like within, I think 10 days, like pretty much the DNA analysis told us is that my body doesn't metabolize certain vitamins and toxins in that I include in my diet a lot. And it wasn't too many to begin with. But basically, when I include any or too many, it accumulates. Like, my body isn't good enough to digest it or process, metabolize it anyways. So then it just gets like stuck. And when I started removing those aspects, removing these supplements, these foods, these packaged foods that had these things like the 10th ingredient in, or like the last ingredient that I was like, didn't even see it in the bunches, but really paying attention to that, it's made such an impact. Like within 10 days, I think, of getting my report and coming off of that, I actually had this aspect where in the mornings it would be like, okay, like I'm pretty tired, rolling out of bed, get to practice. Not that I didn't want to go to practice. I was just like, took so much more to get the engine turning. And I vividly remember within 10 days, maybe 14, but on the 10th day, I noticed a distinct difference of when I was waking up, I was up, ready to go, get my food, get down to practice, no like second clouded thoughts about it. And that's when I was like, wow, this is so impactful. And going into every midseason meet and every championship meet, I would typically lose like anywhere from 5 to 7 pounds over the course of the meet, just from so many races and how intense it is. And when I started working with Erica and like making sure I'm getting in the right nutrients at the right part of the days, I'm maintaining my weight. I'm recovering better at meets. I feel like I swim better as the meet goes on, and I'm sleeping better than I ever have at any travel meet for sure, which was a huge issue for me in college of just being awake too late at night just because I couldn't fall asleep. From giving my body the wrong thing that I couldn't process. And now
honestly, I'm surprised how sharp you are now. Monday afternoon, like I was wiped for a whole week after a meet like that. You're sharp as hell right now, so that's good, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, the main target still ahead of us, so gotta be. Took the breath yesterday, rested, recovered, nourished my body properly, and I mean, like I said with the sleep, like we nourished our bodies properly yesterday, today, and I got 11 and a half hours of sleep. And so that's what it does.
Here's a good one. Kyle House. You know this guy?
Oh, the big pro.
Either of you gents have some good taper rest stories for us? I heard tales at Auburn, swimmers of the past barely leaving bed before the week. Yeah, we had some people that were fanatical. When I first came into Auburn, it was like this whole they just hand you a book of things to do and not to do, and taper had its own section in the book where it was like, you don't walk upstairs, you get rides everywhere. And this was like pre-Uber, so I'd imagine people probably just taking Ubers these days. But you didn't walk upstairs, you took elevators, you didn't leave the bed unless you absolutely needed to. But Uber Eats is probably one of those cool things that we would have hammered at that point in time. So yeah, I think they just took it so far that it was just like complete rest. The week off, you didn't do anything. Now I found later in life that didn't really suit me that well. I tried to stay in a normal routine pretty much. But what about you guys? What's your attitude over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, part of Bob and Herbie actually, part of the talk they had today with me, they pulled me in and they just said, Grant, the next 2 weeks, you need to do no additional exercise, no additional movements that I, Herbie, or Jake Garrity, our strength coach, prescribed to you. And they're like, anything else out, just go home and lay on your couch and watch. And Bob knows I like it, but my favorite anime is Naruto. And he's like, go watch your favorite anime, Naruto. He's like, just rewatch it, whatever you have to do. Don't do anything else. And so I have like, I call it the big cat lifestyle, just like a lion in the in the jungle and just prowling. But up until like it needs to attack, it's just vegging out, just taking in the sun, playing around, roaming, very, very low energy demand. But when it pounces, when it roars, it's powerful. It knows what it's going to do. So
do you change your intake of food, like either up or down, or keep it the same in terms of what you're ingesting over the next few weeks?
Yeah, definitely from the dietitians I've worked with, Don Weatherwax, Erica, Melanie Clark, Emily Orvos at ASU, ASU dietitians. It's not the same as winter training. We're obviously training a lot more frequently and for longer bouts of time. So definitely like dialing that in and adjusting it accordingly. Like I don't need to be like just devouring 6,000 calories a day or as much food as possible. But it's more specific, more targeted, and more direct into what we're doing. So before I've added some taper weight, added some pounds on before during taper. And that's kind of made me like fluctuate in like energy and mood as well too. But yeah, I remember one time during taper too, I was like so upset with like a broken set we did. I just started like pacing up and down the pool for like 15 minutes because someone beat me that I just didn't want to. And it's just like the fluctuations of taper, I think.
Yeah. You definitely have those mood swings and also those feeling swings. Like someday you just walk in and you start swimming, you're just heavy as hell. And it's like, what is going on? And then next day you're light and you're bouncing off the walls and you're feeling incredible. And it's like, you definitely have those fluctuations, hey?
Yeah, definitely. Kyle and I actually call them the taper blues. So when you just get a little bit down, I remember the week before PAX, we had a good Monday session, and then like Tuesday until Friday afternoon, I just felt like 300 pounds,
Yeah.
super low energy, super lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did a broken 200 IM, and I went like a 121 add up. So I was like, all right, I think I'm good.
Good to go.
Yeah, good to go. So waiting to actualize that 121 add up, but I was
So
like,
you
well,
guys will do that because we did that at Auburn too. So like I think probably a week out, we would do a suited broken swim type thing. And is that a mandatory thing where everybody has to do it, or is there a buy-in, buy-out? They can choose or not to. What's the attitude at ASU?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big trusting aspect with ASU. I mean, we'll follow the coach's plan. After that session, I actually went into Herbie's office and I was like, on Saturday, I was like, I felt so much better today, like mood, everything, feeling that I was like, can I do one on Monday? Because that would be 2 days before Wednesday night for a 4x200 relay. And he's like, no, like, we're not going to do that. Like, that's not part of your process. Like, we're good. And I was like, okay, like, I trust you. I just wanted to ask. And then the next day he comes up to me. He's like, I should have explained more to you. Today we're going to take it easy. Tomorrow, a little bit less volume, but more intensity. And then the morning of the 4x2, I actually want you to suit up and do a 75 from a swing. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And he's like, but if we get to like Wednesday and you're like, I just want to do something else, just let me know. So we got to Wednesday and I just did a 50 instead and then did like a couple dives, and that was good. But it wasn't like Grant has to do a 75 at 10 a.m. at Federal Way in the morning before. Right. It was a little bit of flexibility, and Herbie heard me, I heard Herbie, and met in a middle ground that I think was ultimately successful for last week.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Take us into the team meeting. You don't have to give us exact word for word, but just the general feeling on Saturday when the meet is close on Saturday morning. You guys wake up, it's get yourself over the line. You've done enough to win it, but now you got to go out there and finish the job. So what was the general feeling and mood with Bob and the coaches? And, how did they handle that meeting Saturday morning?
Yeah, our really Saturday morning, we typically have a bus schedule every session, who's leaving on what events are leaving at what times. And for Saturday morning, it just said team meeting 9. And that was it. That was our one focus when we woke up, get nutrition in, and then go. And we've had our foot on the gas for 5 sessions, and we're not going to let up any at all on session 6 or 7. Because we know what Cal's capable of, we know what other teams are capable of, and we also want to see the greatest version of ourselves. So if we let up at all before the end of this meet, before the last person touches on that relay, then we're just not preparing as much as we can. And we knew we had to strike first and strike fast, and then keep that pressure on the whole meet, because that's, I think, was one of the most influential things. I mean, to come out and win the first 2 relays that night, I think was a huge wake-up call that everyone had to react to, but we threw the first punches and we were ready to do that on night 1. And then we just kept the pressure going, kept the foot on the gas pedal. I mean, the whole time anytime we have a men's team meeting, I just tell the guys we're a firing squad this year. Like, you line up your shot and you take it, and it's only going to take 1 bullet, because that's what we prepared to do. You don't get, I say you don't get second chances. I kind of got a second chance on Saturday, but fate happens in mysterious ways and for a specific reason. And I made sure not to waste that second opportunity when I got it. And we had plenty of other guys like Jack Dolan, Johnny Kulo, Patrick Salmon, who all stepped up the first time in the preliminary heats to make sure that first shot wasn't wasted. And we had 4 guys in the A final of 100 freestyle that was no slower than a 42-1.
Wow, that's really cool. Phelps wins 8 gold medals in Beijing and goes down as the greatest performance in Olympic history. But a big part of that was Bob's presence and Bob's guidance and Bob's ability to maintain a kind of a certain energy level and keep composure and keep calm. And that helped Michael, obviously. Is that what Bob does with you guys too? Does he keep fairly level throughout the meet when you're in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, Bob definitely has his fluctuations at times, like, but it always comes back to it. Always, whatever it goes in the race, or it never gets like low, is what I've always noticed. It always rebounds to this just insanely high level of excellence that he always maintains of us because he believes that all of us can have it. And I know, like, my first couple times like experiencing it, I was kind of like taken aback. But as I've spent more years with him and spent a lot of more time with him, it's just the realization that he wants us to actualize our greatest selves. And
So what do you mean by that? So he's basically saying you're better than that. Is that what he's saying?
like, you can be, if you like believe in yourself. Like, after a race, it'll be like I remember Julian Hill came in after his 500 in the morning, and Bob was like, dude, you just let that guy on the last 100 just like come over and roll through you. He's like, one, you can race at the end, you can be tougher, you can win. Like, it was just these discipline aspects, double breathing on a turn, double breathing on the last 100. And he's like, just stay disciplined, go race, and be as great as you are in practice, and like, you'll win. And he goes at night, I think he got third, and he improved his time. And so it's just that like kind of constant like rebound and elevation to the level of excellence. Like, every meeting we have, all right, we had a good session, we did well, now we need to perform at night. All right, we did what we needed to do last night, now we have to perform again in prelims to get the points at night. Last session, like Saturday, all right, we've done what we needed to do to this point, but now everyone here is a day 4 swimmer, and that's the first requirement we have on this team is, are you going to be a day 4 swimmer, or are you going to roll over before the meet's over? And just continually laying that foundation of that excellence of not building it up, but just maintaining it at such a high level. You don't let up until the meet's over. Rest at the end, not the middle.
Yeah, listen, we're going for an hour now. This is live. We're live here. I appreciate you doing this, man. Spending time with us and the crowd out here. Joseph had a question that I think you answered probably earlier on. So if Joseph, if you go back and listen to the early stuff that we did, probably like 45, 50 minutes ago, we probably talked a lot about this, the in terms of where the program is now and where he thought it would be. So go check that out. What was ultimately your favorite race from Pac-12?
My favorite race was also my proudest moment at ASU was the the podium stack for the 200 freestyle individual. That was pretty cool. I didn't actually, someone asked me, I didn't even actually look at the scoreboard at the end because I was kind of like just in my own zone, but I was like, all right, I knew I won. And then all I had to do was look to my right because I knew Patrick Salmon and Julian Hill were on my right when I finished. And I just saw them touch the wall, and I was like, that's 1, 2, 3. That's it. Like, game, set, match for the night. And to stand on the podium and like see that picture afterwards was like really one of the coolest moments, because every year I don't know if I've podiumed every year in the 200 freestyle. I may have most of my years, maybe 5. Like, I think almost all of them. But every year it's like been pretty much just me. And to have like a team that strong, to have 4 guys in the A final, including Andrew Gray, who moved up and got 6th that night on his 3rd 200 of the day after winning a swim off, and really like breaking through and kind of persevering past Cal as well. That was just meant a lot to me. That was one of my favorite races. I unfortunately haven't gotten to watch a lot of Leon's swims because I'm either warming down or immediately after him preparing. So I haven't seen the 200 breaststroke except for the last 50. That was pretty cool to see the time. I was in his heat for the 2 IM. I was watching his medley, but I'd say the 200 freestyle was my favorite race of the meet, just because that was also my proudest moment as a ASU Sun Devil thus far.
That's cool, man. This is an inside one here. What's your favorite dinosaur?
Favorite dinosaur? I feel like I'm missing a joke here, but maybe just a T-Rex. I don't know. They're pretty vicious, kind of like like a Lion King. I don't know. Yeah.
Here's a question, and I know it's probably not a focus right now, but like, obviously trials in June, it's a pretty quick turnaround from the end of March to the trials. So like, do you give yourself a break?
Probably not this year. I mean, I've got a lot to prove outside the NCAA season. after the NCAA season, we go into the medal season, we call it down here. So that's when the Olympic Games are, World Championships are, the summer season, international season. And so I've definitely got a lot of work to do. I've got a lot of points to prove to myself and to a lot of other people. And so I probably won't. I'll probably just, Herbie runs such an efficient program that it allows me to go back into things pretty smoothly. And I might take 2 to 3 days, but that's part of our recovery process. I'll come back in on Wednesday or Thursday maybe and get right to it, because I know I can't afford to take any much time off, but other than like kind of bigger gaps of time, but it definitely wouldn't be more than a week. I love this sport and I love what I do at ASU and who I'm around. So I don't really feel like I need too much of a reprieve that often.
Yeah. A lot of people proud of you, man. You're doing really good stuff for yourself, your family, for your teams that you've swum on, for the team that you're on now. You're a great leader, man. You're a good person for swimming. We need you, and you just speak so well. You're so well put together. You train really hard. You're dedicated to the sport. You're passionate. You got your own podcast where you talk about swimming. So, like, look, you're just a good person, man. I'm glad I know you. Glad to call you a friend, and just someone from afar that looks at you. And I just want you to know that. So, a lot of people like, everybody out there kind of feels the same way about you, I think, man.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the high praise from you, Brett, and Glenn. I was trying to break Glenn's records in high school at St. X. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Dean.
Yeah, it's my boy. Yeah, got to win that national championship. Listen, it's interesting because there hasn't really been a third team that's really been in the conversation. It's been Cal and Texas for many years now, and there's been other good teams, but they haven't really been in the conversation for the championship. You guys are in this conversation. Not only are you in it, but there's probably a lot of people putting good money on you guys to win this thing. But yeah, it's incredible that you've come this far, and now all of a sudden you guys are deep in this, and it's like you're a real contender, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like we are. I felt like we were last year, and I mean this year even more so. I don't really understand how teams like Florida and NC State, or I guess even IU, some years haven't gotten it done yet. I mean, I've been recruiting trips there. I know people there, and I know they're great teams by all means, especially Florida with their relays this year. I just don't understand like how they haven't gotten it done yet, like how they haven't taken the same strides we have. I mean, I feel like we've been the most improved. We are the most improved team in the last 5 years by a wide margin.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, you can just check the facts on that.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why every team isn't actualizing that. I think we've improved. I think ASU is like pretty solely responsible for improving the sport of swimming in the NCAA, honestly, just because we were such a poor performing team. And we've improved so drastically that everyone else was like, "Oh shit!" And everyone's held to step up. No one wants to lose to the little brother, or like the contender that just comes up. Everyone wants to stay at the top. Texas wants to stay at the top. So does Cal. No one wants that. And I think ASU's really elevated the entire sport of swimming, not just the NCAA.
If Bjorn Seeliger wanted to come and train with you guys for the season, but he wanted to represent Cal, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I love Bjorn. He's like one of my favorite competitors, actually. I don't know
if he trained with you all season long. He said, "I want to go train with Herbie. I want to train with Grant, but I'm going to compete for Cal." How would you feel about that?
I'd feel a little like confused. I feel like he'd be confused, and he just want to like reap the benefits of like swimming at something that I guess if he's joining us, he perceives as a better opportunity than Cal. So I don't think Bob and Herbie would allow that unless they like represented us in some way.
So how do you feel about Bob coaching a Frenchman in America to go and win the Olympics next year in Paris? How do you feel about that?
Wow, that was a setup question.
Like that?
Was an interesting turn there.
Big look at that.
I mean, power to him. Like Leon. Well, the interesting thing that not many people know is Leon reached out to Bob. And Bob was more than obliged to talk with Leon about being an ASU Sun Devil, and I was too. So, I mean, hey, it just elevates all of us to a higher level. It's going to be a cool opportunity for Leon. And I
You're a
know.
proud American, though. Like, you're a proud American, I'm sure. You don't want this Frenchman to win next year, do you?
No, I mean, he can't win every event, and we're going to make sure of that. I'm going to make sure of that 4x2, 4x1, 100 freestyle, 200 freestyle. Yeah. We're going to be making sure. Like, he didn't have the fastest time this last week in the 200 freestyle. Like, that's for damn sure. So, I mean, he had a great time, but he didn't get all of the events. So the only people that beat him in any of the events were from ASU. So
all right, let's not cause any conflict with this team just yet. Okay? let's stick together for the next few weeks. All right.
Leon will just be pounding me in practices until NCAA, so he's fine with that. He's fine with that.
Stirred up a hornet's nest there. Jeez, Brett, come on, man. Yeah, we had to make it interesting at the end there. No more questions. I think that's it, man. So, hour and 10 minutes. Listen, I really appreciate your time. You could have been anywhere doing anything right now. So thank you for spending it with us.
Oh, my pleasure. I love coming on anytime, whether it's a recap, whether it's just a live convo, or I think we got on at World Championship Trials last year too. So that was fun. Yeah.
Well, listen, good luck the next 2 weeks. A lot of stuff to sharpen and clean up and rest up. But you've got the experience. You guys have put yourself in a great position, man. So it's going to be a really interesting championship this year, with certainly 3 teams that can win it, maybe a couple of others that can contend and take some races from you. But in terms of the competitive side of maybe hoisting this trophy, there's 3 real legitimate shots here of teams that can do it. So good luck with everything. All right.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome to just feel the support from everyone and ASU, from alumni Emerson Ward, Rob Richardson, Simon Percy, all these guys that have long since founded the foundation before I got here, and now we're just able to keep building off of it.
Yeah, good stuff, man. This was a fun one. I really enjoyed this. All right, good luck, mate. Take care, eh?
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining.